Virtue, official partner of Sunderland AFC.
Sport, it's not just a game. It's in your DNA. Like us, you live and breathe every moment. You dissect, navigate, and analyze. At SpreadX, we bring you a world of betting, where flexibility and precision are at your fingertips. With real-time analysis across all devices, wherever you are. Enjoy sports betting that's data-driven. Next level action. SpreadX, it's in our DNA.
Opportunity here. Oh, how cool is that? How cool is that? From Chris Ring. Bellingham, 25 yards line.
Virtue, official partner of Sunderland AFC.
See if they can test Newcastle one more time here with Altidore.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to SAFC Live. New surroundings today for the studio. We're in the new bar at the Stadium of Light, the Founders. This is our home for the afternoon. Of course, the lads are down at the CBS Arena to take on Coventry City this afternoon. One thing doesn't change, and that's Danny Collins is alongside me. Danny, how are you doing this afternoon?
Good afternoon, Frankie. I'm good, thanks. In our new surroundings here.
Yeah,
Nice little setup, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very nice indeed. This is part of the new hospitality experience you can get at the Stadium of Light. Go to safc.com for more details on how you can enter this bar pre or post game at this Stadium of Light. But the attention on the CBS Arena, let's have a look at the Sunderland side. It's only been announced around 15 minutes or so ago, and there's been changes, Danny.
Two changes for Regis Labrie this afternoon, and coming back in, Romain Mundle, straight back in for Tommy Watson on that left-hand side, and Chris Rigg coming back in there. Wilson Isidore makes way at the top end of the pitch. Obviously, we went with two strikers in the midweek. Didn't really work out in that sort of 4-4-2, really. So, Regis opting for a couple of changes, and Wilson Isidore back to the bench.
What about the balance there, Danny? Do you think that's a good natural balance there?
Well, I'd say that's his sort of tried and tested formation, if you like, really, in terms of maybe a 4-3-3. Chris Rigg tends to push on a little bit more up there alongside Meenda, which makes it a 4-4-2 really anyway. People obviously keep going on about formations and personnel. I wanted to see the two of them up there together. It's worked in previous games. Didn't really work out the other night, but I wouldn't really say it was any fault of the two strikers as such. I think we were loose on the ball, middle of the pitch really, maybe that middle third, both sides, ourselves and Preston, turning the ball over far too cheap at times. Service, you could say, was lacking a little bit for them two at the top end of the pitch, but as I say, different test for us this afternoon against a side under Frank Lampard who've been in fantastic form. He's got them up into the playoffs. Yes, they had a blip against Derby last time out, but this is going to be a tough test for us this afternoon.
Let's have a look at the previous game then for Sunderland. It was on Tuesday evening. It was 1-1 in what ended up being quite a bizarre game of football for various reasons. But Sunderland went a goal behind early in the second half. It was an hour in, wasn't it, when they scored. But the first half, fans were a little bit frustrated that we didn't really test their goalkeeper enough.
No, we never know. We'll get onto the opportunities now. When we had a couple, I think Tommy Watson here coming off the left, gets inside his fullback, touch out of his feet and blazes one over. I think Job had a couple earlier than that as well. But as you say, when you've gone with those two strikers top end of the pitch, that's what you're hoping you can get them into there, get them opportunities and create some saves from the keeper. But you see, that was the prime example there. Dan Neil and Joe trying to link up. We almost beat their press, but then we turned the ball over, and there was too many occasions from both sides in the first half, which obviously results in the game being a bit below par, and standards weren't quite there. But Tommy Watson coming back in, he's been out for a while, like Romain Mundle getting back out there. He had one or two opportunities himself in the first half, but you can see it's going to take him a little bit of time to get back up to speed. Yeah,
equally though, Danny, Preston nothing didn't really do anything the first half.
Not really. They had that one there a moment ago, didn't they? I think it was Brad Potts who got himself in there with that opportunity. Sam Greenwood had a couple as well, didn't he? So, but yeah, neither keeper was really worked from both sets of players, were they really? So. I think over the course of the game, a draw was probably a fair result, if we're honest, and it's took a wonder strike from Romain Mundle to take a point for us, hasn't it?
Yeah, we'll come on to that in good time, because there's some bizarre situations just before that taking place, but this is quite a
big one, isn't it? Yeah, Trade as well, steals the ball back, stands a lovely ball up, they've got the arms up in the middle, he's not offside, you see it from this angle now. I think it's the man nearest the corner of the 6-yard box here, just have a look. Yeah. Onside, times his movement well actually, Wilson, and then the key part of it. It's what's lacking, isn't it? It's just directing it past the keeper. He can go either side really. Keeper's, he's rooted. He's got no chance with it. But unfortunately, Wilson heads it past the post there. That wasn't not a bad strike, was it? Sorry, from 20-25 yards out for Darson, wasn't it? I thought he was quite good for them. Yeah, he screened their defence well, helped out, and then ticked them over in the middle of the park as well. But the big man, I thought, Reece, who gets their goal, 10 goals for the season for him, he was a handful. But this opportunity now, this is what he's looking for. He can shift, but he gets a bit excited. He's off balance and he screws it well wide, doesn't he? That one there, I think Tommy coming in off the left, that's what we keep saying. We want your opposite wide man to be coming in and getting involved, but he does. Whether he gives Mayenda a shout there, I'm not sure. But listen, I think it's one of them. It's drilled in quite low from Wilson, and Mayenda, he's in good form, isn't he? He wants to add to his goal tally, but he just blazes it well wide on that occasion. And this is where the game started to open up a little bit, and there's Reece again, so he's had a couple on his stronger right foot, hasn't he? And then here we go now, I think it's Wilson Isidore, this one, isn't it? Yeah, regains possession, and again, never really in control of it, is he? On his weaker left foot. So both teams are sort of toiling away at this stage, aren't they? As we said, the game's a little bit loose, but here's Preston's goal now. So they work it well down this right hand side, little ball round the corner. And you see there the two front men. I think Will Keane's come on at this stage as well. Just runs down the channel there into to Reece, chops back inside Dan Neil, and it's a lovely finish from their point of view. It's a crisp strike with his left foot into the bottom left corner. But I think, if we're being a little bit picky, I think Chris Mepham can now step up. You've seen there's a yard deep at the 18-yard line, but once he chops inside Dan Neil, Reece, then I think Chris has got to come up a little bit more. He probably thinks, I'm in a decent position. He's on his weaker left foot, 20-odd yards out, but he almost uses Chris as a sort of a shield. Blinds Anthony Patterson from seeing it really. And by the time, listen, I don't think he's going to get there anyway. It's a lovely strike in off the post, isn't it? And you're thinking again, here we go again, we're behind again, and we've got an uphill task to try and take something from the game. Yeah,
he took the goal well, Reece, after getting a bit of jip for that earlier shot in the game. But he was a good player, wasn't he? He held the line really well for them.
Yeah, I think he's a handful. Yeah, he's a big physical presence. He puts himself about. Right,
this is when the antics
This is where it all starts. Yeah, so I don't think either of these are a penalty. I think this one gets flipped in. Luke O'Nien comes, bit of contact with Porteous. You see the two there. He's the one who sort of starts it off really. Goes down, looking for it. There's not a lot in it. I don't think there's enough on Wilson. I think he's looking for the penalty. But we've missed all the antics out there, which we'll discuss in a minute. But here's the equaliser now. So we work it from the right hand side, come across to the left. They actually deal with the first one there, and then can they get a bit tighter? They say they stand off. You know what he wants to do on his stronger right foot there, Remain. But we've seen it a few times this season. I think 5 goals I think he's got now, isn't it? It's just enough. That 2-3 yards you see that it's not tight enough in football, and he's 25 yards out, 20 yards out maybe. He's got a lot to do still, hasn't he? But postage stamp top corner. Woodman's diving for it. It's not getting there, and it's enough to take a point for us.
One of the sweet things about that goal, Danny, is Ryan Porteous is still waiting to come back on after his antics.
Yeah, exactly that. So it come back and sort of bit him in the backside, didn't it? Well, it wasn't just him. I think Potts went down, didn't he? Kessler Hayden was the other one who was already on a yellow card, and then you can see Chris Mephams out there trying to drag them off the pitch. Then their coaching staff were involved, and it became a bit of a circus.
Magoma went down on the far side.
Yeah, and then his number had gone off, and then all of a sudden he's back over there. Almost 12 players back on the pitch. So yeah, it shouldn't really be happening in this day and age. But the ref's there. Obviously, he needs a bit of help. The fourth official's there.
What could Lewis Smith have done a bit better than
the ref?
The ref, yeah.
I think you say yellow cards. This yellow card or two. Now, if he gives Kessler Hayden's on a yellow card, he'd been booked earlier. I'm not sure if Porteous had picked up a card, had he? You've probably got him jotted down there still. But yeah, if he branches a yellow card for somebody, it sort of halts it a little bit quicker, I think. Yeah. But they were at it, Preston, weren't they? And up to that point, they hadn't really done so. Generally, when you're winning, certainly away from home, you'll slow the game down. If we're in that position away today, maybe we'll do the same thing. It naturally happens in football. But you don't want to see lads, Kessler Hayden, he's 2 yards from the touchline, then he goes down, just get off the pitch. If you've got a genuine injury, because he'd gone down 5 minutes early with his hamstring, but then he had a couple of sprints after that, he looked okay. And then Brad Potts does the same thing. And then, as you say, Magoma's, he knows his ball's come on. I think it was Liam Lindsay come on the 6. Everybody's seen it, and then he's 2 yards from the touchline, and all of a sudden he's back on the far side. Yeah. So yeah, I think from the ref, what you could say, he adds 9 minutes on, so he's allowed for that tomfoolery. going on, and we still had enough time there to go on and try and win the game after that. I think, was it Joe who had the half chance with the header, couldn't quite get enough on it, but if we're honest, taking them sort of antics aside, we haven't done enough for me over the course of the 90 minutes really to win the game.
Yeah. Okay then. There's been a couple of early goals and early games in the Championship this afternoon, but let's have a look at the league table as it stands if we can, because Sunderland fans will be looking at this quite a lot. And today has a little bit of significance as well, because we face a team which are pretty much thereabouts in the playoffs, Coventry City. They've gone on a remarkable run, really, haven't they, since Frank Lampard took over. And now they find themselves in contention, and possibly we could meet them in the playoffs.
Yeah, been fantastic. I think it's 12 wins, 3 draws in his 20 games in charge. As I said, he would have had the disappointment going back to his former club where he sort of started off, I think Derby, wasn't it, in his coaching career, to lose in midweek 2-0, wasn't it? So he'll be trying to get back on it this afternoon, and it's in that little cluster there, aren't they? Bristol City, I watched the game last night, I thought they were excellent against Norwich, a good game, two sides having a good go, but they're a threat, Bristol City. West Brom have picked up since Tony Mowbray went in there, and then, as you say, Coventry, you've got Middlesbrough, who are sort of in and out of the playoffs, aren't they? They can't quite get going, Borough. Frustration for them down the road from us, and then Blackburn, obviously, losing John Eustace a month or so ago, and they've sort of dropped out of it a little bit, but they're all right in it, and then Watford as well. So it's so you'd expect, 2 from us, Sheffield United and Burnley, to be in there, and then there's 2 of the sort of 6 or 7 teams fighting to get in there as well, and even Millwall, Sheffield Wednesday, if they get on a run in these last 9-10 games or so. So a lot to play for a lot of sides in there, but from our point of view, we've got to get going a bit of form as well. We've been scratchy in the last few weeks, I think everyone would agree. We're not sort of blowing teams away, we're getting over the line in 1 or 2 games, and then other games where, prime example, Tuesday night, Preston coming into town and 16th in the table, and they take a point away from the Stadium of Light. So we've got to get back to some sort of form, and if it is going to be the playoffs, you want to go into that with some momentum.
Let's have a look at the starting 11 and bench again for Sunderland this afternoon. There's been a couple of changes by Regis and his coaching team. We see Romain Mundle back in the starting 11, as is Chris Rigg as well. What do you think was the thinking behind starting Tommy Watson rather than Mundle in the Tuesday?
Yeah, well, I've seen people mentioning this yesterday, really, but he's been out for a long time as well. He come back in. He played against Sheffield Wednesday. I think he played the game prior to that. Can't remember who it was now. Hull, was it? And then obviously he's had a few games in a short space of time. Similar to Alan Brown, come back in. You've got to manage players as well when they've been out for a few months, and those 2 got injured in the same game and then come back in the squad. Tommy as well picked up that one in the block tackle, wasn't it? I thought it was his ligaments.
So he's trying to give minutes to them both,
yeah,
isn't he?
You've got to get them back in there and ease them back in. It's a 3-game week. You've got to weigh it up. Obviously, we're coming in towards the business end of the season, but Romain, you could see him growing. The game prior to the last one, where he started here, Cardiff, wasn't it?
Yeah, Cardiff,
that was the one.
Yeah.
First 45 minutes, he was excellent. Died out of it in the second half, but we didn't have as much possession. But you can see him getting back up to speed, and what I like about him, similar to Jack Clark, keeps taking the ball. He might have 1 or 2 things that don't come off for him, but he'll keep on going. Give me the ball, and he's direct. I'd still like to see him a little bit more go on the outside. I think when he come on in midweek, he's taking the ball, going inside. Just show your defender, show your fullback. First time you pick it up, go on the outside of him, because he knows you want to come inside on your stronger right foot. But if you show him early on that you're willing to go on the outside of him, it was up to Van Uwijk today. Yeah. Should show him early on, go on the outside, and then just pass the ball across with your left foot across the 6. Meander and 1 or 2 others getting in there, and then it puts a doubt in the fullback's head, and then you almost earn the right then to get that yard of space coming on the inside.
Yeah, just looking at the lads doing their warm-ups here. Is there anything in, Danny, because this is the last game before international break, leaving nothing in the tank, if you like, going into this fixture?
Well, yeah, we've got a few going away, aren't we? Obviously, Meander getting away with Spain's 21s as well, Chrissy Rigg, Joe, Dennis Serkins. Yeah. Dennis Serkins called up for the under-21s. He's near 30 now, Dennis. No, I'm joking. Yeah, it's good to see, but recognition for the season that the boys are having, isn't it? So, from our point of view, though, they're going away, but it's a lot. I've been there. You're travelling, and you've a couple of games. It feels like you're away for a long time, and then from Regis and the coaching staff's point of view, they want him coming back unscathed, injury-free, and going back into that last 8 games or so, and then possibly the playoffs. So yeah, I mean, obviously Chris Rigg as well coming back in, and a lot of people have said Chris looks jaded, he looks leggy in the last few weeks, and he's had a bit of a rest. You know, still come on the other night, didn't he? And I thought he was quite energetic actually in that second half, and getting us back into the game as well. So we'll see today. You know, he's a young lad, was he 17 still, Chris Rigg? So you know, he's not burnt out just yet.
No, but let's hope not. We will be back after the break, hopefully joined by our club historian and friend Rob Mason. If you want to buy your Matchday streaming passes right now, you can do so at safc.com. Welcome back, everyone, to SAFC Live. We're just waiting for our guest Rob to turn up. Let's have a quick look at the team. While we do so, we'll get Rob in and in position. This is the Sunderland side. We have 2 changes, Danny, ahead of today's 3 p.m. kickoff down at the CBS, the Coventry Building Society Arena.
Yeah, and he's kept it the same as the sort of back 5 with Patson and the same back 4. Obviously, Leo Kjelder coming for a couple of games. He's picked up an injury, we believe, as well, so not involved in the squad. And Joe Anderson amongst the subs, and then maybe just tweak it slightly from that sort of 4-4-2 against Preston in midweek with Chrissy Rigg, as we said, coming back in. Dan Neil just sitting a little bit deeper with Joe ahead of him with Chrissy Rigg, as we said. Patrick continues out on that right hand side. Mayenda, the lone striker this afternoon, up against those 2 centre-backs, Thomas and Kitchen. And then Romain Mundle coming back in for Tommy Watson on the left.
Yeah, Ben Middlewest makes his debut on the bench as well. It's good to see that the youth are still having that pathway.
Yeah, Ben's sort of attacking midfielder, really, probably a 10, or where you see Job and Chris Rigg on the setup there in the formation, and Harrison Jones got a bit of a run out a couple of weeks ago as well, didn't he? So yeah, it's good to see the young boys getting in and around it, and obviously for them now it's key to push on. Well, say young lads there, probably a couple of them are older than Chris Rigg, aren't they? So it shows that if they're working hard, doing the business in the 18s and 21s, that they are going to get an opportunity in and around the first team. Yeah,
let's have a look at our opposition for the first time this afternoon. Coventry City. Doing really well under their fairly new manager, Frank Lampard. He's got his reputation on the line here, Frank Lampard, hasn't he, with his managerial career?
In a way, yeah. I think he went in at Derby, done quite a good job there. They had a good cup run, didn't they, as well? Chelsea obviously went in at a difficult stage, really. A lot of change going on with players and the club itself, really. And he had a bit of time out, and then obviously he's come back in, hasn't he? So, as we say, they're picked up from Mark Robbins, who initially obviously done a good job at Coventry over the last 5 or 6 years, taking them up from League Two into the Championship, and obviously nearly getting them to the Premier League a couple of seasons ago as well, and good cup run last year. And then Frank's come in, as I say, played 20 games in the league, 12 wins, 3 draws, 5 defeats. That's a 60% win ratio. And then just having a look this morning, if you go over the sort of course of the season on that rate, you're probably looking around 90 points, which would have them right up there in the top 2, really, wouldn't it? So that's where they're at, this sort of level he's brought there.
It's a strange situation though, Danny, because they all loved Mark Robbins, and we were even astonished when you got the bulletin, weren't we?
Yeah, well, we were, and then obviously he's gone in at Stoke, and as soon as I've seen him go, I thought he'll do well at Stoke there, he'll get them up to sort of mid-table, but they're still struggling, Stoke, toiling away, aren't they? I think, 4th, 5th from bottom. I think they're 0-0 at this, playing at the minute against Millwall. So yeah, he struggled to get them going down there. So, but he's not the first since Stoke have come down from the Premier League. They've tried a fair few managers now.
Even on the radio on the way in as well. Yeah. Nathan Jones doing well at Charlton these days as well, and he struggled there as well, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, and then obviously I think he's obviously done okay at Luton, didn't he? And then got a stint at Southampton, didn't work out. So it's how football goes now, and 5 or 6 games in football is a long time as a manager if you're not picking up wins, and then gets a bit hostile with the crowd, and a lot of people want change. So, but as we said there, on the flip side of that, Frank's gone in and he's got them going here. I think they've got goals in their side. Hadji Wright, I like him. Obviously out there this afternoon, interesting one for him here at Stadium. He picked up an injury, didn't he? Do you remember on the far side? But scored that day as well. We were obviously 2-0 up at the break. Finished 2-2, Radoni as well, getting the late equaliser.
We scored some brilliant goals back on that day, didn't we?
Dennis's rocket, wasn't it? Yeah, picked it up in our own half.
9th of November, feels like a lot longer than that.
Isidore as well, wasn't it? So, yeah, well, it's interesting looking at that as well. There's only 2 games this season. We've been 2 goals to the good at the break. That was 1, 2-0 up, let it slip, finished 2-2, and Sheffield Wednesday 3-0 up at the break, weren't we? When we actually won 4-0 that day as well. So, it would be nice. I don't think it's going to be the case today. This will be a tough game for us, but to have a bit of breathing space in games where we go and get the first goal and then go and get the second, and then we can start relaxing and playing. But over the course of the last 20-25 games, we've not been in that position. We've had to really grind. But I'm still confident in the boys. We can certainly push on worst case playoffs this season, but got to keep on going these last 9 games.
Yeah, those last 9 games, so there's still 27 points up for grabs. There's still a lot of points, isn't it? And we're not sure how the early kickoffs have finished just yet, and we'll get confirmation of that, I'm sure, in a moment. But it was 2-2 last time we checked.
Yeah, well, Leeds were 2. It's just finished in our ears there. Yeah, but they were 2-0 down, weren't they? To Queen's Park Rangers, again, another team who've picked up a little bit, and then obviously Leeds have managed to scramble and get a point. I think that keeps them top of the weekend. But everybody, myself a few weeks ago, forget about Leeds, they're gone. But all of a sudden, they've lost last week or the week before, wasn't it, at Portsmouth last Sunday, and then obviously just taking a point again today. So they're making hard work of it themselves, and then obviously Sheffield United and Burnley will be looking at that, and it gives them a
and
little
they
bit
also
of a lift.
drew last weekend, or last time out, Tuesday night, wasn't it? They drew
both 1-1. Similar to ourselves. So we can sit here all day and keep looking at our results, and we know we've let a lot of points slip in the last 15 minutes of games, and what if, but the other teams will have similar sort of results where they'll go through them as well, and over the course of the season, the table doesn't lie, does it? And then but you obviously get a second chance at it. If you don't go up automatics, the playoffs are obviously waiting as well.
we've 3 games undefeated. If we want to put a spin on Tuesday night, it's important that we go into the playoffs with momentum, isn't it? We can't just stutter into them.
Yeah.
Or even, as you often see in playoff campaigns, the team that come into it at the last, even in the 6th place, they often are the most successful.
Yeah. Well, it is exactly that. So, realistically, and if we go on a 1 run here now, and the 2 above us start dropping points, or 3 if you want to include Leeds now, have a miraculous drop off, and then all of a sudden we come up the rails, pretty similar to we did back under Roy, because we were never top where we were always sort of coming up the rails on the teams and managed to get over the line. So stranger things have happened in football, but yeah, just got to take each game as it comes. It's a toughie today, as I said there, and the teams just below us have sort of got their mini league going on as well. There's sort of 5 or 6 looking for 2 places really for the playoffs, and as I say, Bristol City got the job done last night against Norwich. And then obviously you're looking at West Brom then and Watford, the other teams like Middlesbrough. There's a cluster in there, aren't they, trying to get over the line, and Coventry are right in amongst that.
Yep. Just looking back through some more of the Sunderland news from this week. Leo Hjelder looks like he's missing out this afternoon with a bit of an injury as well. But good news on the international call-ups as well, especially Eliza Mayenda being recognised by his country, and Dennis as well. Yeah,
no, rightly so. As I say there, for the team, we're competing at the top end of the championship, and it's good recognition for the club, isn't it? You've got 5, 6, 7 of your players going away on international break. Obviously, Rob there just coming in the background. And then you've got, the Irish boys away, Trey will be away, obviously Dan Ballard's injured as well.
Let's throw the Sunderland team up as well while Rob gets into position for us. Our team here are going to shuffle some chairs around as we look at the Sunderland side. And Rob will be joining us in a second. He's been locked out of the Founders Bar, this new bar. It's all
high
very
security
well having
in here,
a
isn't
new
it?
bar,
Yeah,
but if you can't have access to it as well, then it's no good to no one, is it then? But this is the Sunderland side, Danny. 2 changes, if you want to just take us through that, and then Rob can have his say once his microphone's on.
Yeah, run us through it once more. Yeah, so as we said there, we've perhaps gone back to that 4-3-3 this afternoon with the back 4 kept as it was on Tuesday night, and obviously Dan Neil just drop a little bit deeper. Job will push on alongside Chrissy Rigg, and when Chris plays, it's almost a 4-4-2 anyway, because he's the one that releases, and he's almost up there alongside Mayenda, and you can see Chris, he keeps having a look over his shoulder at the likes of Patrick Roberts and Job and the others, saying, come on, let's go and press, let's get up the pitch a little bit higher. And then Mayenda on to 7 goals I think it is now, isn't it? He's had a little bit of a patch, hasn't he, the last couple of weeks, a couple against Sheffield Wednesday when he came back into the side, and Cardiff as well was his other one, wasn't it? So he's got 3 in his last sort of 3 games really. So yeah, it's a difficult one, I think, for Regis, trying to keep them happy.
And Rob, you can have your say on it as well if you want to help Dan. Yeah, some good filling there.
Yeah, well done, Danny.
Thanks for coming, Rob.
Yeah. I've been here about an hour, honestly. I've been all over the place. No, absolutely. I'm looking at that side. It's pretty much the side that I would have chosen myself, other than the discussion of whether it's Mayenda or Isidore. Whichever one you go for, you've got strengths and other attributes that are maybe he's not their strengths. We saw, for instance, like Wilson miss a one with his head. We know he's a great player, but he hasn't shown he's a great header of the ball so far. Having said that, let's hope I'm tempting fate and he comes on and scores the winner with a diving header.
You want to put that right, won't he?
Of course.
And Eliza as well, he shows great bursts, especially deep into the game as well. You think, where's he getting this energy from? And he will be, of course, feeling the confidence from that international call-up.
Absolutely, yes. And the recent goals he scored for Sunderland. So, in terms of our record at Coventry, as you've no doubt already discussed, we've got a poor record at Coventry.
Yes.
And against Coventry, I think Mr. Collins here might have been in the side the last time we beat them at Sunderland. But obviously we've not beat them at Coventry for 40 years. It's an awful long time since a teenage John Moore scored the winner back in 1985.
Wow, I didn't realise it was
it's a long time since. But and we've attempted to beat them at Coventry since on 3 different grounds. The old High Free Road, the ground they're at now, and also in between when they were grand sharing. They did grand share at Northampton. We never played them there, but we did play them at Birmingham St Andrews.
Oh, that's right.
Yes,
yeah,
we did,
So we've had attempts on 3 different grounds, but surely, I'm a big believer in the law of averages. Surely, we're due one. Mind you, I've said that the last couple of times we've been to Coventry, we haven't got the win. So.
There is obviously a lot spoke about the history between the two sides, the incident in the late 70s and in the late 90s as well. For those who don't know about it, just explain it one more time.
Well, yeah. So 1977, last game of the season. Before then, at Christmas, Sunderland were dead and buried, bottom of the league. We just had a run where we hadn't even scored for 10 games, let alone won a game. Jimmy Adamson was the manager. He brought in what was called Charlie's Angels. Charlie's Angels was a popular TV show at the time. Our chief scout was Charlie Ferguson. We're talking about having a young team now. We brought in 3 young players. Sean Elliott and Kevin Arnold got their debuts. Gary Rowell had played 1 or 2 games before, but really established himself in the team at the same time. We went from not scoring in 10 games. We beat Bristol City 1-0 on a Friday night, and then we beat Borough 4-0. We beat West Brom 6-1. We beat West Ham 6-0. The team that couldn't score, couldn't stop scoring. We came back from the dead. It got down to the last game of the season. The only way we could go down is if we lost, we were away to Everton, and if Coventry and Bristol City drew. We did lose 2-0 at Everton, the last goal being in the last minute. We were right in the game up until the last moment. But Coventry and Bristol City delayed their kick-off by about 15 minutes so they could see what the Sunderland score was. Bristol City were leading 2-0 at Coventry. Bristol City, incidentally, their manager was Coventry City's former assistant manager, to Jimmy Hill. And Coventry were 2-0 down, they got back to 2-2. Then the news came through Sunderland had lost. And the last 10 to 15 minutes, they just kicked the ball around amongst themselves at the back. Nobody attempted to cross the halfway line particularly, and they played it out. And so they saved their skins, we went down, we felt very hard done to. People like me who are still bitter about this still feel very hard done to. And apart from beating Newcastle, nothing gives me more pleasure than beating Coventry. But as I said,
we haven't done it for so long.
We haven't done it for so long, so we're more than due. And the last 7 years, I've actually been working for Coventry as well as Sunderland and working for a number of other clubs.
So you don't want a point today then, do you?
No, absolutely. I've always made it completely clear. I mean, you should know this.
Yeah.
I've always made it completely clear.
Foot in both camps.
Right. Foot in one camp, Sunderland's 200% for Sunderland. No split loyalties whatsoever. It was simply a job, you know.
Yeah.
I've been down to Coventry every time we've played them the last few years. I've been well looked after. I've got to say the modern people at Coventry are good as gold. Can't speak too highly of them. I'm talking about people from 40 years ago who were the culprits in what I consider to be, shall we say, the darkest of dark arts. But I'm hoping that this year, as I haven't gone, that this year we get the result and I can start making patronising phone calls to all the Sky Blues that I know.
Yes, and we've been involved in some bizarre games with them as well.
Yeah.
I don't think many times we've scored 4 at home and still get beat.
That's right. Yeah, there was the 5-4. 2 or 3 years ago, whenever it was a really crazy game. It was the first time we'd let 5 goals in at home since 1981 when we lost 5-1 to Man United. But yeah, that was a freak game. That was an absolutely freak game when they beat us 5-4. And I was going to see my favourite singer, Gretchen Peters, that night at Durham, and it completely ruined my night.
Well, I hope the Sunderland don't ruin your night this afternoon, Rob. Anything else to say on the sides? And you got to give credit to Frank Lampard, who's come in on the back of Mark Robbins, who was instrumental in the rise of Coventry City.
Well, until the fact that they lost 2-0 at Derby the other night, they were on their best run since 1969-70. 8 wins in 9 games. They'd been absolutely flying. They've come from near the bottom of the division. They had high expectations at the beginning of this season, Coventry. They spent a lot of money. Mark Robbins was one of the longest serving managers, maybe the longest serving manager in the league. They really went into it with very high expectations, and then things started so badly for them that, to everybody's surprise, they got rid of Mark Robbins. Frank Lampard's come in. He's done a marvellous job for them so far. And obviously he's got record against Sunderland. I think he scored more goals against Sunderland in the Premier League than anybody else in his Chelsea days.
He's not playing today, is he?
No, he's not playing. I
Relax.
hope not, but he's given us enough bad days, Frankie, as a player. And he's come in and he's done brilliantly for them. But they came off the rails a bit the other night when they lost to Derby, who were obviously struggling. From their point of view, especially having been knocked out of the playoff positions last night with Bristol City beating Norwich, they'll have the incentive of getting back into the playoffs today, getting back on the horse, if you like, after losing the winning run.
I like it.
Oh, yeah.
Unintentional. I don't know anything about horse racing. Some people say know nothing about football, and they're probably not wrong. So it's a big game for them. They'll be well up for the game today. Plus, there's always a little bit of an edge for them about Sunderland as well. If you read the local Coventry papers, which I do on a daily basis, particularly in the run-up to games against us, they're always going on about what they always describe as their fierce rivalry with Sunderland. It's got a bit of an edge for them. It's got a bit of an edge for their supporters. Frank Lampard was quoted this week saying, "Yes, I know all about the history of the clubs. It's a bit of an unusual rivalry between Sunderland and Coventry." So make no mistake about it, they and their crowd are going to be well up for it this afternoon.
So,
but
just
if
on that
we're
then,
at our best and Coventry are at their best,
Yeah.
we will win because we're a better side. But if they're at their best and we're not completely at it,
Yeah.
it's another defeat.
Right. I was going to say, so you're in the loop with the locals and reading the local press. What's the difference that Frank's made coming in as opposed to what was happening?
I think
in the
really,
Bobbies?
I think it's confidence. I mean, as you know, they haven't. We're talking about whether we're playing Wilson Isidore with 12 goals or Eliza Mayenda, who's got 7 now.
Yeah.
You know, with 4 of them against Chef Wed,
Yeah.
and not having played for an awful lot of the season. Coventry haven't got a scorer with more than 7 goals. They've got 4 or 5 people on 4, 5, 6, 7.
Yeah.
But their goals have been very much shared around. Obviously,
still
Haji
5,
Wright
yeah.
is an excellent player, and he probably would have more had he not been injured.
Yeah.
Today's
Got injured
he's starting
against
today's,
us,
yeah, he
didn't he?
got injured against us. He's had a couple of games off the bench recently. He was quoted in the Coventry press this week saying it's funny how football works. He's come full circle. He's getting his first start. He was expecting to against Sunderland, who his last start was against and who he scored against at the Stadium of Light.
Yeah.
He's a real threat. But they've got other players who are a bit of a threat as well. But I'm delighted from a Sunderland point of view that Jack Radoni, who I think is their best player, is out at the moment with a dislocated shoulder, because I think he's got 10 assists as well as 5 goals.
Good player indeed. Okay then, Rob, we'll leave things there. Thanks
Cheers.
for popping
Rob.
in here to the Founders Bar. We're going to go up to our commentary positions right now. Remember, you can buy your matchday streaming passes right now around the world at safc.com.
Sport, it's not just a game. It's in your DNA. Like us, you live and breathe every moment. You dissect, navigate, and analyze. At SpreadX, we bring you a world of betting, where flexibility and precision are at